Marge and I have been helping our daughter fix her house up over at Depot Bay on the Oregon coast, and we thought that we owe it to ourselves to go for a hike occasionally and see some of the sights around the area where we're working. So we decided to do the Drift Creek Falls, and that is only about 10 miles from Depot Bay, and it's supposed to be a real nice hike. We haven't been up there yet, so it'll be a real treat for us to find that site. We start up the trail and find some little bridges crossing numerous streams. This is the Coast Range where they get lots of rain, so there are plenty of streams and lots of lush growth along the streams, lots of ferns of different kinds and other brush. There are plenty of little streams and a nice little bridge across each of them as we move up a very, very good trail. It's not even real steep. Where it gets a little steeper, there are switchbacks. So most anyone could probably hike this that's able to do a 1.5 mile hike. That's one way, so it'd be about 3 miles round trip by the time you take in the falls. And there is one other little loop that goes through a bunch of old growth, but we're sort of limited on our time, so we won't do it. We see some big old logs laying down that are rotten, and they've even placed a little bench here for you to take a little break on as we wind our way through the trees and across one bridge after another as we move down the trail. Gosh. Being in the rainy Coast Range, their numerous little streams come roaring down from up above, and they built nice little bridges to cross each of them as we move our way on up the trail toward the waterfall. This little stream has some pretty noisy rapids. We're dwarfed by the hemlock and spruce trees along trail's edge, and then we come to a patch of wood sorrel. I always like to eat some of that, but not real close to the trail. You never know what somebody might have done to it. So I'll find some off the trail and try it. It has kind of a lemony flavor to it, and it grows in fairly dense forest areas. Numerous little deer ferns grow along trail's edge just before we come to the suspension bridge, and this is really a bridge. The timber opens up and you look ahead, and here's a sight that you may not be prepared to see. It's a suspension bridge way out here in the woods. Makes you wonder how they got the material out here for it, but I learned they flew it in helicopters. So we're going to try this suspension bridge. I know Marge isn't afraid of heights, and a little swaying won't bother her at all, but I'm not really used to that swaying, and after all, we are 100 foot above the river down below, and here's where we're afforded the first view of the waterfalls, and wow, what a nice waterfall. If you're afraid of heights at all, it might be a good idea to wait till there's no one else crossing the bridge. Although it does have some sway cables on it, it still will sway a little bit with you when you walk across. I guess maybe you wouldn't want a dog trotting across it. They have a tendency to make things sway more so than anything else. But we cross the bridge, and it's a very safe bridge, even with some wire alongside just to keep people from falling through the cracks. and the waterfall is really nice from here. I don't know how they saw the waterfall before this bridge was built. You can see just a little bit of it before you start crossing the bridge, but once you get across the bridge, then you're afforded a very, very nice view of the waterfall. And the trail continues on and it winds around and switchbacks down to where you come out almost at the base of the waterfall where it comes crashing into the river below. And on the way down, you'll see all sorts of other vegetation growing really lush from the spray of the waterfall as it comes out a little crack in a column or basalt cliff. Under certain conditions, you can even see a little bit of a rainbow there under certain lights where the spray comes out and spreads across the cliff down below us. The bridge is a one of a kind thing. I'm really surprised they built a nice bridge like that up here, but a lot of people use it now. We've picked a perfect sunny day for this trip, and this is of a morning. Of an afternoon, you might have fog drift in here on some of the days, but not today. It's just a perfect day for it. And this bridge is quite intimidating when you look down. But Marge isn't afraid of heights at all, so she went across before I did, and I walked across it okay, but I was pretty careful. But I was able to see that roaring waterfall down below. It made it all well worth. The U.S. Forest Service just built this bridge here, hauled the material all in with helicopters and built this very sturdy bridge. And if you need a little confidence, you can look at that bridge and see it's not going to be rotten or break off any place anytime soon. So that should make you feel better. Once you get almost across the bridge, you can look back and have a lot better angle and a lot better view of the waterfalls as it just comes crashing right down into the river's edge. And this trail winds around and goes clear down to the edge of the water where you can stand real close to where the waterfall ends down at the bottom. And there are other places where you can stand and watch the waterfall, but the whole key to it is you have to cross the bridge first. You don't have real good views till you cross the bridge. So that might be motivation to cross it. And it's only 100 feet down if the bridge would break, but you can look at the bridge and have perfect confidence that it's not going to break. And the spray from the waterfalls has made all kinds of lush vegetation down below. At the beginning of the trail, they give you a little brochure that has a little bit of the history of this place. And so I got one and I'm carrying it along, reading it as I go. And also they have little numbers on posts, and then you look up the number on the little brochure, and it tells you what it's all about. So that's really nice. I'm going to look at this little brochure real careful again while I'm sitting here listening to the music of the waterfall coming crashing down. There are numerous waterfalls along the coastal range, but I can't think of any that I like better than this. And besides, when you can look up and see that bridge, and it's funny to watch people when they come to that bridge, I never saw one person turn around and not cross the bridge. But when they get over to the bridge, they'll put a foot out on it and stand and look and watch for a while before they cross it. Because I guess if you're not used to that kind of heights, there's not much under you but just a little bridge. I guess it could be plenty scary. But if you have confidence that the bridge isn't going to go down, you can just hang on to the rail and cross. Marge and I sat on a rock right below the waterfalls, and someone very nicely offered to take our picture. We've been married, I think it's coming on 60 years or 59, I just forget. But don't tell Marge I forgot. The waterfall comes out through a column or basalt cliff. After we walk down to the water's edge, then it's time to walk back up and make the 1.5 mile trip out. But first, we need to take advantage of all the photo ops right in front of the waterfall as it comes crashing down to the river's edge, and it doesn't have far to run now, and it'll be back in the Pacific Ocean. We really needed this hike up here today. It's just a good break from the work, and we really need the exercise. Marge is within a couple years of 80 years old, and I've already passed 80 years old, and so we need to keep in shape and go on these kind of little hikes just to keep in shape and to enjoy the nature that's out there just waiting for us. Down next to the creek, the spray from the waterfalls has put a lot of moisture down there. So trees that like a lot of moisture, like the western red cedar, are growing pretty nicely right down on the river's edge. And they grow to be really pretty huge here. Some of them, the tops have been broken out of them by the windstorms, and then they grow many tops. So I think that they're probably old growth cedar that we see growing down here. And the water just tumbles down the cliff minute after minute and hour after hour as we move our way up out of the canyon and back across the bridge.